Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is MLB Inside the Numbers on the Fan vs. Fan radio network. A very special shout out to all the listeners that are tuning in this morning across this country, especially down in the Atlanta area. Go Braves. All my friends out there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that, those faithful three down there that tune in every week. Appreciate having you guys on board. And all of my friends up there in the Great White North, got to send a shout out to Canada. Absolutely. Welcome to the program. I am the Insider Steve Silver, and joining me, as he does pretty much every week, Houston's own, Bo Reed. Good morning, Bo. What's going on, man?
I'm not in Houston.
I know. I preface that because, for those that are tuning in for first time tune-ins, Bo is stationed in Austin, diehard Rangers fan, absolutely just despises the city of Houston and everything it stands for. Doesn't really care too much for the Astros. Doesn't really care too much for the Texans. But you know what? I give it to him every week.
Well, yeah, that's okay. I feel still in a good show today, Steve. I think a couple people that we know and we're quite good friends with, I think it's going to owe us a
Yeah. We do have a fantastic show lined up for you guys. Former New York Mets reliever DJ Carrasco joins the program, talking a little bit about what it's like to be a active Major League Baseball player. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences of pitching in the American League versus the National League. Quite interesting. Maybe kind of dispel some myths about pitchers' parks and hitters' parks. I know a lot gets made, especially when it comes to bullpen pieces, the difference of playing in both. We're also going to talk to him a little bit about, what exactly is an AL reliever. He has been classified as an American League reliever. And what's kind of interesting about this, Bo, is I actually really thought that only just was attributed to starting pitchers. But I guess not so much.
No, not so much at all. So there's going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to that one. Absolutely.
Following DJ will be Dan Schlossberg from the radio show Braves Banter. He is a credentialed media member of those Atlanta Braves, lifelong Braves fan. He's gonna jump on, talk a little bit about the National League East race. The Atlanta Braves currently sitting 4.5 games out of first place right now, lead the wild card. But as this stretch run gets into mid-August, as we get to the 1st of September, Bo, something's big is going to happen with those Washington Nationals. Steven Strasburg's 160-inning limit is quickly approaching, and he's going to be shut down. Their GM came out and basically said, "Listen, we're holding firm to that." Whether or not you feel that is a big mistake, I do. I think they handled it completely wrong. It's going to happen, and that's going to play a huge factor in this National League East race.
Well, it's going to be huge. The Braves are right there. The 4.5 games out. You take Strasburg out of that rotation. You've got no one to replace him. Really, no one can get at that level anyway to replace him. It's going to end up being working out badly for the Nationals. They can't just sit on this 4.5 lead and say, let's take our ace out because we don't want to overuse him. And you're right. They should have limited this guy's things throughout the season. You get too much in, you're in contention, you're one of the better teams in baseball. You know you're going to be good. Make your adjustments then. Have him skip a starter. Have him skip 3 or 4 starters. Okay? Save him for that September and October push because, you can make the playoffs. And I think they will with or without Strasburg. I think it's a playoff team. If you go into that postseason series, especially a short one without Strasburg, you burn him out trying to get there. What's the point? It's going to be a first-round exit anyway.
No, I agree. And the interesting thing about this is the Washington Nationals knew coming into the season they were going to protect him. They knew it. which is fine. It's 100% fair. You have to do what's right for your organization, and if he is your ace for the next 10 years, which by all accounts he is, then you have to do right. I get that argument. But then again, the Washington Nationals are also in the pennant chase.
Right.
Their division status is very real. And the thing about this is you had to have the foreshadow after April, after May, that you were going to be in this thing the entire season. So you know what? They should have done right. At that point, they should have brought up John Lannon from AAA, and I understand John Lannon isn't exactly a sexy name, but at least you can add him to the rotation. Now you go from a 5 to a 6, and you have the ability to skip a start here and there if you so choose. You had the ability to push that 160 inning limit into September, possibly into October. They should have done right. They should have taken out a page of what the Mariners did last year with New York Yankee All-Star last year. Why can't I? What a shame! I can't even remember. Anyway, so Michael Pineda. Thank you very much. Last year, the Mariners, granted, of course, the Mariners were in a completely different situation last year. They weren't contenders, but they also played the role of knowing that he was probably going to be a very big part of their future. And the last thing they really wanted to do was stretch him out when he has never been stretched out that far in any season of his career. They did right by him. Skipped a start here and there. Kept him fresh in the second half. If they needed him in September, he was going to be available. They did right. The Washington Nationals didn't do that. And you know what? It's going to affect their September. And I got to be honest with you. If they make the playoffs, you know what? I'm telling you right now, that rotation is not going to be the same. And I'm going to go on record right now here, Bo, and say if the Washington Nationals do make the playoffs and Steven Strasburg is not there, it's going to be a first-round exit.
Well, I got to wonder. I really have to wonder. They're limited to what 160 innings, right? I wonder if they're going to shut him down for the stretch drive. Okay, they shut it down for the stretch drive, and then basically put it back on for the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like you rest his arm for the last part of August, all of September. You make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden you throw him back in the playoffs. Have him in and start game one of the playoffs. Nationals all of a sudden have their rotation back, but I got to wonder what that last time off would be. I think a lot of people ask the Nationals what exactly they're going to do, what exactly their plan is, because if you're shutting down Strasburg the entire way, in other words, down the stretch in the playoffs, you're not giving yourself the best chance you have to win the World Series, and that's what all fans want their front office to do, is give your team the best chance to win the World Series. You take Strasburg out of that equation.
Mm-hmm. Phone lines are open, 714-202-9918. We're taking calls all show long. If you have one, go ahead and give us a call. You can also reach us out on Twitter, @InsiderSteve, @Let's Talk Rangers. Definitely love to hear from you. And we also have a comment from the chat room. This one comes from Andrea Sox fan. I know her quite well. What about the most underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball, Jordan Zimmerman? What about Gio? What about Edwin? What about their bullpen when Clifford and Storen? No, you're right. But then again, depth isn't depth. Here's the interesting thing about this is, and I've said this all season long, the Washington Nationals probably have the deepest rotation in all of the National League, and it's true. But then again, Steven Strasburg is their best pitcher.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. They have the ability to shorten their game, but then again, if you don't have your ace, I mean, we're talking about your ace. The guy, the guy that you know for a fact you can give the ball to twice in a short game series if you have to. He is a shutdown pitcher. Felix Hernandez, Justin Verlander. Do those names ring a bell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, you gotta have one. You gotta have one. And I'm telling, as much as I like Gio, I do. I like Gio. But he's never been there before. Yeah, I understand that neither is Strasburg. But there's a big difference between Strasburg and Gio.
Big difference. Huge difference. You're talking about a huge drop-off. You take Strasburg out of the equation, you're dropping down to where Gio probably starts game one of the series. Zimmerman starts game two. And I agree with her that she's right. one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. I agree with that. I get it. I'm not saying the Nationals are an automatic out. I'm not. Because they could win a short series with what they're going into. They could do that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But take Strasburg out of it. You're not giving yourself the best chance. You're not putting your best foot forward in a National League playoff. So let's face it, there's going to be some good teams in the National League playoff. Everyone's focused on the American League playoffs and also seeing how the teams are stacked up in the American League side. That National League side is just going to be just tough to go through. And if you take Strasburg out of that, you're taking a huge piece of the rotation out of it. And what signal is this to the players? They play their hearts out just to make the playoffs. If you look at our best pitcher or weakness just because you get any from it, the Nationals, you know what, I get it. I get protecting your guy. I get it. I understand. But you need to adjust. They should have adjusted way back in May, knowing that they were going to be in contention, and make it to where Strasburg maybe takes some time off in the middle of the season to so we can have them for the stretch ride. That's what the Nationals say. I'm not saying that they're making a mistake by shutting him down. That's not the mistake. The mistake is not adjusting to where they had him for that stretch ride in September and for the playoffs.
Well, Bo, we had a laundry list of headlines set up, but that nice little rant diatribe about Stephen Strasburg and the Washington Nationals kind of went a little bit over. No big deal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to shorten this one down a little bit. So out of the four headlines that we had, which one would you like to discuss this morning?
I think we talked a little bit last week about some trades at the deadline. The one we talked about more than any of them was Zach Greinke. And we said for this trade to have been a success for the Angels, for this trade to have been worth it, they had to win the World Series. They had to win the World Series. Greinke had to be phenomenal. He was fantastic in his first start as an Angel. He lost because he didn't get the run support, and then he's been bombed the past two starts. You couple that with a horrendous road trip for the Angels bullpen. Now you start to see why that maybe it was a little too risky, because right now the Angels are sitting 7 games behind second in the West. They're still there in the wild card. They're behind the A's, a game and a half behind the A's. If this thing doesn't turn around, this thing doesn't get fixed, and they even fail to make the playoffs, people look at that Zach Greinke trade as a huge mistake by the Angels.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting, Bo, because I was wondering how this was going to play out. And I said it right at the time of the trade. I didn't know if this was a great fit for the Angels. You brought up a very interesting point when it happened, though, and you basically said, as far as opportunity, and when you look at Greinke's talent, it probably could end up being probably the best deal made at the deadline, and I completely agreed with that. But then again, I wondered how he was going to handle the transition from Milwaukee to an LA market. Now, granted, some people have chimed in and said, Anaheim isn't Los Angeles, but then again, let's be perfectly honest. The expectations are still there. The Angels are right in the thick of a pennant chase. The expectations have been there all season long. He was brought in to be that third shutdown closer in that rotation. I beg your pardon? Yeah.
Yeah.
His first start against Tampa Bay. His first start against Tampa Bay, I wasn't too surprised, just considering Tampa Bay's offense has pretty much been anemic all season long. They didn't have at that point in time, they still didn't have Evan Longoria back, and so really, I wasn't too surprised that he came over and was able to do what he did in his first start. But the last two starts against Chicago, roughed up.
Yeah.
Against Oakland, who, by the way, had a fantastic statement series against the Angels, winning 2 out of 3, lit him up. Interdivision games, let's be perfectly honest, he was brought over to win those games. The A's came into that series knowing that they had to take 2 out of 3 to really kind of push that envelope and really kind of take a hold of the second place, and they did that. Greinke didn't get his job done. And again, it begs the question, where, not only just the fit question part about it, just where is his mindset equipped to handle this type of pressure situation? Because let's be perfectly honest, doing it in Milwaukee is one thing, doing it in LA is a completely different other thing.
Well, this wasn't absolutely both, but they're really starting to look more at the A's now. And the Angels, they went into that series, they lost the first game, win the second game, lose the third game, and they lost that third game after they had a lot of their games on that road trip where the bullpen just imploded. The Angels have got to do something about that bullpen. We've been saying that this whole season. They've got to do something about that bullpen. They haven't done it. They didn't do it at the trade deadline. They're not going to get a hugely reliable arm in August off the waiver wire. So they're going to have to try and tackle and figure this out because they're in trouble. And they're not in trouble just for winning the AL West. They're in trouble for passing the A's for a wild card spot. And the way the Tigers are coming along, White Sox are right there. Earlier this year, we said, well, maybe two teams from the West because they were leading everybody, but now these Central teams are coming along. The East teams are coming along. They've got to pass the A's to get into the wild card spot. I think at this point, the wild card is going to come out of two different divisions. The West will be one of them. They've got to pass the A's, and they absolutely failed in their one attempt to do that. I mean, you're in this dogfight with the A's. You go to Oakland, you're starting great. You're expected to win 2 out of 3, and your bullpen costs you 2 of 3 games. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for the Angels. The Angels fans are upset. They're worried. They should be. Because you sit back all of a sudden, you go from last week, for example, they're in Texas. They take the first 2 in Texas. They're up big in the third game, and all of a sudden the Rangers come back. They win game 3. They take game 4, and the Angels go from possibly 2 games in first place in the AL West. They're now 7 back. And they're fighting the A's. They go to Oakland. They lose 2 out of 3. They lose 2 out of 3 to an Oakland A's team that you have to respect at this point. I don't understand why people are still discounting the A's. They've got the best pitching in baseball. With Cespedes in the middle of that order just unloading on people. That lineup is starting to hit. I mean, they put up some serious runs against the Angels pitchers. They put up a huge amount of runs on defense. And the A's are for real. The A's are there. And they're not going to go away. The Angels, they really got the big 3, big 4 in their starting rotation. But their offense is topping out. Their bullpen is horrendous. They're in trouble. That's the bottom line. They're absolutely in trouble. So that was probably the series that I watched more than anything this week. That I wanted to see how the A's handle being in the race for the first, not for the first time, but not only being in the race, but being head-to-head against your prime competitor for a playoff spot.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're both teams are 5.5 games out. A's are 5.5 out. Angels are 7 out. This was the first matchup with the A's in the prime competition for that wild card spot. And the A's passed the flying colors to the Angels. You know, it was a 10-day road trip that they did not need. It just sucked all the life out of them. They were building. They had the momentum. They went in after the first 2 games of Texas. Everyone was like, good Lord, the Angels are going to pass the Rangers before the week is out. And all of a sudden, they're as far back as they've been in a couple of months. And they're even behind the A's by a game and a half. And if they can't beat the A's head-to-head like that, they're in trouble.
Absolutely. Shifting gears right now. We're going to bring our first guest. Former New York Met, DJ Carrasco joins the program. DJ, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well.
Good. How's the summer treating you, my friend?
But it's been lovely, man. I've been vacationing, seeing the whole Northwest United States and visiting family and friends and just enjoying the time off.
Good deal. How was your experience up here in the Northwest?
Man, it's been lovely. We went to Seattle, went around the whole town. There was a sea fair going on at that time. We did like a 23-mile bike ride through the mountain passes, through some big, 2-mile tunnel, and just seeing everything, man. Did a lot of hiking and seeing a lot of waterfalls and stuff like that, outdoorsy kind of stuff.
Good deal. I'm glad you enjoyed my hometown. But
I did.
You know, it's quite interesting, and I'm glad that you're on the program because there's been some talk and mainly about the differences between leagues. The AL versus the NL, and you've had the ability to pitch in both. My first question to you is, I mean, as a reliever, and some of the stuff that you throw, does it change your approach, pitching, to a power-laden league like the American League versus the National League?
I wouldn't say really. Very rarely do you ever change an approach. It's just your style of pitching is definitely affected by, number one, for me, probably the park that I play in and the lineup that I'm facing when it comes to the American League and the National League. And what I mean by that is in the American League, it's such a power game where 1 through 9, at least 1 out of 9, or 8 out of 9 guys are power hitters in their own rights, and whether the count is 0-0 or they're down the count with 2 strikes, they're still swinging to drive the ball. Now, in the National League, your type of player is a little different because the manager shuffles in so many guys. Defense has to be a priority as well, and these guys are, not just there to hit the ball a long ways. They're there to field and throw and run. So typically when they're coming in at these skilled positions, they're going to be a smaller type player that's, geared more towards hitting the ball, doing the hit and run kind of game, bunting guys over. So when they get 2 strikes, they shorten up and put the ball in play a lot more than I think in the American League for my style of pitching anyways. And what I mean by that is, I'll go, I want the ball to look like a strike, and at the last minute I want, some late movement to happen so I get weak contact. And, sometimes it doesn't work out as well in certain leagues I've found.
Does that change the way a pitcher would approach a batter? Meaning, maybe more fastballs early in counts versus off speed. Because when I look at the leagues, I notice a lot of cutters early in the counts, a lot of fastball counts. But then again, as you just highlighted, it may affect the way a reliever, a starter might approach a hitter. What does that mean for you as a reliever?
I mean, we're always taught, and I tried doing that younger in my career, like in the minor leagues when you're trying to trick guys and you're trying to pitch to their weakness. And what happens a lot of times is, number one, you don't have as much confidence and you don't have as much control. So now you're just getting behind the count and you start walking more guys and you start getting the hitter back into their count. So I like saying, like, probably 95% of the time, you're pitching to your strengths, not necessarily their weakness. Sure. It's just if it matches up, then, it's better for you. But there's some guys that you throw the whole kitchen sink at, and they're going to hit it anyway. So that's probably not better off, pitching around them or trying to toy with them because, a single might be better than a double or a walk, So that's how that goes.
Now, you have been described as an American League reliever. And it kind of threw me it threw me for a loop because, again, I've always thought that was more attached to a starting pitcher more so than a reliever. I've always looked at bullpen pieces as interchangeable, especially nowadays. As we've kind of as we moved away from the Trevor Hoffmans of the world and some of the closers from the 90s. It's just kind of the way the baseball has evolved. What is the term American League an AL reliever? Me personally, I don't understand the terminology imposed to a reliever.
Well, I think that statement is pretty much correct most of the time. I think that I would like to think that, not that I'm a dying breed, but the type of position that I do out of the pen is probably of way more value in an American League than it is to a National League. And what I mean by that is a long man that can throw multiple innings, and I'm talking 3 to 4 innings out of the bullpen, where that doesn't really happen very much in the National League. And I could throw, multiple days in a row, where a lot of guys can do that. But a lot of guys, their effectiveness, they're hard-throwing guys, hard sliders, hard fastballs. Those back-to-back days in a row might, wear on somebody more so than throwing the 3 innings of the day off and then another inning. That workload doesn't happen as many innings, I don't think, in the National League as you can get in the American League. But, the opportunities to throw happens a lot more in the National League. So it's kind of, it depends on the pitcher. If you have a guy that's able to do that, then he'll do well in both leagues. Me, I like to throw consistent, once out of every 3 days, 2 days, and sometimes in the National League the starter goes 5 with a lead, then it's just 1-1-1-1-1. In the American League, I could throw that 5th and 6th inning just to get to the other guys because the bullpen won't get burned out as quick.
Well, fair enough. That's definitely interesting. it kind of makes you open your eyes a little bit more to how bullpens are used, especially in the American League versus the National League, where the double switch. In the National League, pinch hitters, starters go shorter, and especially I think you hit it right on the head right there. That in the American League, without without the advantage of the double switch, you're absolutely right. Pitchers can, relievers can go 2-3 innings at a clip.
Correct.
Quickly though, I was asked by my program manager, to ask you this question, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. You've had the benefit of pitching in the American League with Kansas City and Chicago, and the National League with the New York Mets. What was your favorite park to pitch in, and kind of give a reason as to what made it so special for you.
Oh, I gotta say, I had better numbers in Pittsburgh and Arizona than probably any in the American League, but mine was the White Sox in Sailor Field. That was my favorite. Reason being is because it was a smaller field, and typically that's not the kind of answer you hear from a pitcher. But again, when I'm throwing the ball down the middle of the plate and relying on late movement, I get a lot of big swings. So if my pitch is working at that time, I'm going to get a lot of weak hits. And I found that the bigger parks that I pitch in, those balls tend to fall in a lot more behind, shortstop, second base, that no man's land between the infielders and the outfielders.
Sure.
And in U.S. Cellular, the outfielders had to play in by default because the fences were shorter, and those would get caught a lot more times than they wouldn't. Typically, these guys in the big leagues, if they catch a ball, it doesn't really matter where they play. I mean, there's some parks that will, shut it down like Seattle and Detroit, that you might get a catch, but for the most part, if I make a mistake and they're hitting it in the air, it's probably going to be out anyways. But that more times than not, that wasn't the case at that time.
Now, I find that relatively interesting because, again, U.S. Cellular Field has been labeled as a hitter's park, and especially in the summertime,
right.
when the temperatures rise, routine fly balls tend to go out. Especially
right.
the pull hitters down in that left field porch. Same with parks like Texas, maybe even Yankee Stadium as well too. Is there? I guess as a pitcher, do you feel more comfortable? Pitching in a, I hate to use the term bandbox, versus, I guess you can say, quote unquote, pitcher's parks.
Honestly, I did. It took a while to get that way. Just, because obviously you want it further back so they have to hit it better. But as I kept going and going, those couple of years in Chicago, it was just more clear to me that those balls would fall in on the road and at home. They were out. And I don't know, statistically that year, I think I was pretty tough to hit a home run off of that year. The last couple of years that wasn't the case, but, then it worked more for me. And I really believe that's why I had some of the guys that crunched the numbers and they were telling me, your hard hit or more, your soft hit balls off you were like, top 5 in the league. And I was like, wow, I knew it happened a lot, but I didn't realize it was at that kind of a clip, and it was a benefit for me to play in those smaller parks.
Well, that's quite surprising. Generally speaking, the most, when you listen to interviews and most pitchers, will tell you that it benefits playing in a, with a wider expanse in the outfield. So, just in case a fly ball does get up there, they have speedy outfielders that that have the ability to track it down. And it's interesting to hear that you're a little bit more comfortable in those shorter close spaces.
Most of them guys throw like 94 too, 96, and they have all this nasty stuff. I'm relying on deception where everything looks the same and it's darting left or right or down kind of deal. So it's a little bit different. That's why I said also with not necessarily the dying breed, but your starters don't really have to be power arms or anything like that. But typically this day and age, you look out of the bullpen and everybody's just a power arm. So not to have that and be able to throw starter like innings. Not obviously not 200 plus innings, but towards the 100 inning mark out of the bullpen is a great asset, I think, to a team to get to those power. It allows you to carry another 7th, 8th inning type pitcher later on because you can cover up both of those innings for them.
I'm curious to get your take on this, DJ. We talked a little bit about in the pre-interview, and I know that right now you're squarely solely in vacation mode. But I'm curious though, the difference between Major League Baseball now and what it was 20 years ago, and just the involvement of prospects and the way franchises handle some of these young kids. The Washington Nationals are in this kind of situation where they are in first place right now. They are chasing down a division title, and for the fans of Washington, and especially that franchise that really hasn't been to the postseason since 1981, you know, how do you feel? How do you feel about the handling of a guy like Steven Strasburg in his 160 inning limit and not being available, for the stretch drive in the September run? As a player, I don't know if you've been through something like that as being part of the pitching staff. I mean, how do you feel about that if you were in that bullpen and knowing that you probably wouldn't have your ace for the stretch drive?
I wouldn't agree with it at all. I mean, this whole game, let's face it, is a business, and businesses are here to make money, and you make a lot more money when you're in the postseason and you get to the World Series. I think they messed up last year by waiting so many days to bring him up. I think the year before, when I was with the Pirates, he made his debut against us, and they were 6 games out of first place, and I want to say, I don't know, you probably have the date online there, but I want to say he would at least have probably had close to 10 to 12 starts if he'd have started the year with them. And I'm pretty sure he would have won 6 games. So they would have probably been at first place somewhere around that time of the year. So to me, they lost out on a lot of money just trying to play the arbitration game. And this year, when you're in first place, I mean, it might not ever happen again for another 20 years. Who knows? You got to go when you got to go. But again, we don't know. He's just coming off Tommy John. If he's telling a man I'm tender, and, I'm hurting a little bit, we don't know that kind of stuff either. So if he is hurting a little bit and they want to limit his innings, then by all means, you don't push a guy this far out. I mean, back off the reins now and then maybe get right back on him towards the end. So those are kind of questions. I haven't been watching it, so I don't know that kind of stuff. But if he is healthy and he does still good and all the signs are there when the trainers are checking his, his mobility and everything else like that, man, you got to play him. That's your horse. You got to go with him.
Well, I mean, I understand the need as a franchise to protect your long-term investment. I get that argument, and for the most part, I somewhat agree with it. But again, the Nationals are in a place where they haven't been before, and you're absolutely right. This might not happen again. And this is unprecedented. And again, I think the way the Nationals handled this, was a little foolish. I think if you knew that you were coming into the season with an innings limit on the kid, you skip a start. You don't you let him go 5 1/3 instead of 7. Some of those type of things where you can push the date back into September, maybe even late September, get him a playoff appearance or something like that. I think it's when you look at the standings and you see the Braves at their heels at 4.5 games back, and not having Steven Strasburg a part of that September run, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nationals end up losing some ground.
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, they could have pushed back his rehab assignment and got him back a little bit later too, and like you said, backed off the reins. But again, if he's not feeling good, that's something that I don't know if they're want to let out or not. But you got to go with him if he's going to be healthy.
Yep.
Okay. Well, DJ, I'm glad we're talking about this because you've actually pitched in this division. What's the impact on the race here? I mean, you take Strasburg out of the equation. They still got Zimmerman. They still got Gio Gonzalez. Are the Nationals in trouble without Strasburg, or is this something that they can weather the storm with?
There's a lot more to it than just this guy's going to give us a win that day. I mean, that guy, I don't know what his numbers are right now, but he might be averaging 7 innings an outing or what it may be. And that's kind of like, that's tenfold. You see it happen with the Rangers the last couple of years, especially last year. I mean, that bullpen was just getting murdered from, September, from the end of September into October. And if you can get it started, give an extra guy or two a rest every other day, every day kind of deal, every 5th day, whatever it may be, man, there's a lot of big situations. You watch the postseasons, and it's, every once in a while there's a blowout, but there's a lot of close games where, that reliever's coming in with 2 outs and, second and third kind of deal, and you need that arm to be as good as you can. And nobody remembered that back, a month ago, skipping a start for this guy, and then the replacement guy only threw 3 innings, and now everybody worked an extra inning and a third that they didn't normally have to do, so all that gets exposed throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. And when you brought up management as far as overworking of a bullpen, Have you played for a manager, or just your observations around the league? A guy who not only knew how to manage his starting rotation, but also knew how to manage his bullpen to a point where, come August, come September, that the bullpen wasn't overworked or gassed.
Yeah, but there's always both sides of the coin. I mean, I've had some of the times where I'm coming in where the games are close, holds, that kind of situation, but a lot of times it's been the other way around. And you can always second guess something. Sometimes there's a lot of panic, especially when you're on that teeter-totter of a wild card spot or first place or whatever it may be. But this is the big league, man. I mean, they don't pay you to be powder puffs down there. You got to go when it's time to go. They ask you to throw 4 days in a row. Well, you know what? You have to do that. So, there is some strategy, and there is definitely having what kind of quality you're going to get out of the bullpen by being able to rest guys for so long and knowing their patterns, if they like to throw every other day or get 2 days off or whatever like that. So, all that comes into account when your manager and your pitching coach and everybody are talking on the same lines. But as far as it goes, I mean, everybody's pretty much the same. There's times where they try and do what they can do, and a lot of times their hands are tied. They got to go with whatever the scoreboard dictates.
Now, you were in Chicago with Ozzie Guillen, correct?
What's that?
When you were with the White Sox, you were with Ozzie,
right.
Correct?
Right.
How was that experience, by the way?
Dude, I love Ozzie. Ozzie gets a bad rap from a lot of media and players sometimes, but to me, I love the guy. I mean, in this game, you could probably ask any player. Transparency is by far one of the biggest things that we care about. So letting us know up front. Don't, beat around the bush. All the political stuff that goes on is no fun. But if you tell us how it is and what we need to do, by all means, we can work on that. But if you don't, we'll have no idea. We're not going to perform like you want us to. And with Ozzie, he'd let you know. Some guys couldn't handle that. They didn't like being told that they weren't too good at that time or whatever it may be. And me, I loved it. Hey, you need to do this. Okay, now I know I need to do that. And there's a lot of subtle things that he does that people don't realize. For instance, when I was there, Beckham was a rookie. If he had a bad game or something, did some kind of a bonehead mistake or something like that, Ozzie would intentionally make some kind of a scene of some sort, take all the pressure off the Beckham issue, let him play his game, don't let the media eat him up. Let that attention turn to Ozzie. So I think he's a genius in his own way, and he's not necessarily from this country, so he doesn't understand all the workings of the politically correct kind of stuff. But to me, I really respect that he can go out in front of the whole nation, whole world, and say what he feels and what's on his heart. And he gets chastised for it a lot of times, but to me, I mean, that's transparency right there. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it always seems like the manager. It just depends on the manager. I mean, go about Ozzie while another player, and so I mean, the manager to me, just looking on it, just depends on the players he's dealing with. Am I right about that?
You're talking about what decisions he's going to make on the field and all that?
No, just because a lot of times when players, especially when it comes to Ozzie, some either like him, some hate him, and it just seems to it would be like a personality deal. It depends on the player, depends on the players he's dealing with, depends on his clubhouse, so to speak.
Right. I mean, it's like that. Well, I mean, you and your host got a professional relationship. You guys have to do on the air, whether you like each other or not, you tolerate each other at the field. And a lot of times in baseball, it's not your typical 9-to-5 job where you have a boss and you have to conform. A lot of these guys were the top dogs coming in, and they were treated a certain way, and they expected they'll be treated that way. And, everybody was their own top dog at some point. And when they meet a personality they don't like, they don't know how to deal with it sometimes. So they, well, that guy is this and that guy is that. So it's just, I don't see anything wrong with it. I've seen all types of personalities, and it is what it is, and you got to try and make it work. And those that don't, they clash.
A lot was made last season, with Terry Francona and the Boston Red Sox, and some of the reports that came out that he pretty much had a lax clubhouse. The veterans were kind of allowed to come and go as they please, as long as their attention to detail on the field was still there. I'm curious, was that overblown? Are major league clubhouses pretty much kind of ran the same way? Some managers have different styles, but for the most part, I mean, is that kind of the atmosphere in the major league clubhouses?
For the most part, I'd say yes. I mean, there's always the fact that, you have an owner of a club, you have the club, you need to respect their wishes as far as looking professional and representing that club that you're on. A lot of older guys know what it takes for them to perform at this level, and, they like to take the younger guys under their wing and kind of show them the same things, and they'll develop their own habits. And by that, you're kind of doing your own thing, but at the same time, you are working. You're not just not doing anything. Now, we go through spring training, and we bust our butts. We do all these drills. We get everything going. And when you play every day, take BP, there's really not a lot of, we need to be working on this, we need to be doing that, because just yesterday you played a game, and the day before you played a game. 150 games later, you're, in August, counting the spring training games or whatever it may be. So you're doing stuff, whether you're getting there early and taking extra ground balls. A lot of that doesn't have to be done all the time if you've done it forever and you know what you need to do to be ready to perform that night.
But I can imagine that especially in August and after going through spring training in the first couple months of the season, you guys have been around each other for quite a long time. Especially on the road, there's always that need to kind of break up the monotony. I can understand it if players are kind of sick of seeing each other. I think that just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, like I said, like I was talking about earlier, just a personality deal, and teams have their cliques. Some guys get along better with some guys. Some guys
Sure.
like to get up early and have breakfast. Some don't. Some want to sleep in. Some want to eat at the park. I mean, it's just kind of it's like anything. You find what you have in common with somebody, and kind of form a bond, you form a bond and you hang out, and that's what you do. It gets you through the year, because a lot of these guys, you see them on TV, they're having fun, they're doing this and that, but they're also away from their family. Their kids are going to school away. I mean, they're missing that life too. So they're trying to fill up that extra time that they're not at work with some kind of a happiness or some kind of something to give, keep them busy and not just hang around and do nothing.
Who was
like
that?
Doing nothing too. So.
Who was that one guy for you? The one guy, or maybe it was a group of guys that you've established a good solid friendship over the years. I mean, who was that guy for you?
I mean, there's always one or two guys on every team, so
Sure.
You keep in touch. But again, like you said, you're with them every day in and day out. When I was with the White Sox, it was Linebrink. When I was with the Diamondbacks, it was Norberto. With the Pirates, it was Evan Meek. You name it. So every team I've been on, it's been, somebody or another that you just hang out with, and you guys share, stuff in common and go eat together, and you try and have these bullpen dinners to keep everybody together and stuff like that. And,
Sure.
Those are just things that hopefully the older guys are showing the younger guys those kind of deals, and, it forms lifelong friendships. I mean, I still keep in touch with every one of those guys I just told you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, DJ, we're in the dog days. Everyone's talking about the dog. I'm really interested to get a viewpoint from a guy that's been in a bullpen. Where are the bullpens going through this late in the season? Those that aren't necessarily on teams that have a good starting rotation. What are the bullpen guys going through right now?
Well, hopefully, and I'm pretty sure they all are, they can watch a game and, it's not done, but typically that phone should never have to ring. Everybody in that bullpen is watching the game come the fifth inning. They know exactly who's up. They're looking at the lineup. The left-handed specialist is like, I'm probably going to have this guy. The eighth, ninth inning guys know their inning. So it's just basically all second. I mean, it's like second nature at this point. There's really all the roles are filled in. Somebody goes down, so they'll bring somebody up kind of deal. So it's excitement, man. Everybody's pulling for each other, especially, if they're in the hunt right now, and it's go time. This is what everybody plays all year to do.
Well, DJ, I do want to thank you for coming on the program. But before we go, I want to let you know that we do have a couple open bullpen spots this upcoming season up here in Seattle.
Okay.
Keep that in mind when the calls start coming in. I know that you prefer to be in the American League, and let's be perfectly honest. The Mariners probably aren't going to be in contention next season, and I know that probably will play a factor into your decision. But I'm going to let you know it'd be nice to see you in that bullpen in 13 up in Safeco.
That would be pretty, man. I've always loved playing there, and it's pretty cool situation with Tacoma right there next to it, and all the mountains, and all the Bellevue and everything. I really enjoyed it, and who knows? We'll see once season's over and winter meetings go by, and see what everybody's trying to do, and what offers I have. And I just want to tell you guys thanks for having me on this the show, and God bless you guys.
Absolutely, most definitely. We hope to get you on maybe in the off season or closer to the ending of the season.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
DJ.
Have a great day. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks. DJ Carrasco. Fantastic interview. Great guy. Fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I asked him that Ozzie Guillen question for a reason. I wondered, and I kind of held back a little bit, and again, I apologize for all those listeners that are tuning in. Usually I don't do that, but he seems like he has a very good respect, good friendship with Ozzie Guillen, and I was really kind of curious if he would maybe kind of indulge us a little bit about Ozzie's personality, because the Chicago media. It's kind of, it's much like New York to a point where characters can be created through the media, and I always wondered if Ozzie Guillen was that type of personality where maybe he hammed it up a little bit for the media.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And it's always nice to get that from the clubhouse viewpoint on that issue. We what a player says, maybe what a former player says. We go off with members of the media that are in the clubhouse there. But it's nice to get that viewpoint from a guy who's actually played for him. You know what I mean? A guy that's been there with Oz, and just the viewpoint from a guy that's been there. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. That's just awesome. I was really interested to hear what he had to say about what the bullpens are going through right now, because it's August, and bullpen guys are overworked. Some of them are underworked. Some of them haven't seen very much time lately. Some of them are a little antsy. Some of them have a tired arm. Some don't. So yeah, it was a fantastic interview. Certainly a lot of insights there, especially I think he made it going back to Strasburg about pack on the bull. You take that horse out that's giving you 7, 8, 9 innings in every one of his starts. You take that guy out, replace him with a guy that only goes. Start to get a bullpen impact, and that's where pulling Strasburg out this late in the season is problematic for the Nationals, because you're taking the horse out, you're going to overload your bullpen now. Your bullpen is key if you make the playoffs, and he brought up last year's playoffs, especially with the Rangers. That bullpen is the reason why the Rangers made the World Series. And you take that bullpen out, you have an overworked bullpen, you're in trouble. And that's something the Nationals are going to have to figure out, Steve. They're going to have to figure this out, because they've taken Strasburg out. You're going to replace him with a guy that's not going to be as dominant. It's not going to go as many innings, which means your bullpen.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Bo. Switching gears, bringing in our second guest, a credentialed media member of those beloved Atlanta Braves, lifelong Braves fan, so much so he's got a radio show called Braves Banter. Joining us on the program, Dan Schlossberg. Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
No complaints, man. Beautiful weather up here in the beautiful city of Seattle. No complaints, man. Good summer day.
Yeah, I wish I were there, because it's pouring here in New York.
Oh, surprising a little bit.
Well, that's because the Braves are in town. Last year, Hurricane Irene wiped out 2 Braves men's teams.
Oh.
Well, I know during the early morning pre-interview when I was talking to you, you were a little bit concerned about those Braves heading into New York, and I think it was more along the lines of you were going to be there more so than the Braves were playing the Mets.
Well, both, because last year Hurricane Irene wiped out 2 games in a row, as I mentioned, and the Braves seem to have lost their timing as far as hitting and pitching. That's when their big slump started, when they frittered away that 10.5-game wild card lead. It was right after that Hurricane Irene interval, which was in late August last year.
Mm. Well, Dan, speaking of those Braves, 4.5 games behind in the division. They're leading the wild card right now. They're 8th in the National League in offense, hitting .256, on-base percentage of .328, and on-base plus slugging of .731. 6th in the National League in pitching, 3.74 ERA. Opponents hitting .251 off of them. and they're third in the National League in bullpen. I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm sure you know who Fred Hickman is.
Oh yeah.
And he basically said, "Listen, this team is built for a second half run. Always has been." And the Braves right now haven't even hit their stride. I mean, when you look at the numbers and you think about their position right now, is that something that you agree with?
Yeah. Look at one guy, Dan Ugla. Look what he did last year over the second half versus what he did over the first half. And he's just coming around now. He's just starting to hit the last week or so. He's really showing signs. And if this one guy starts to hit, he will provide the right-handed power that is missing from that lineup.
Yeah. It's interesting, and more so. This next question is more so geared to the pitching staff, specifically the starting rotation. It finally seems that Tim Hudson has kind of got out of his early season fog. He started the season on the DL, came back, and didn't necessarily have a great rhythm. But over the last 5 starts, the numbers have started to come down. What impact has he had over the last 5, and especially with the addition of a guy like Ben Sheets at the top of that rotation?
Well, the Ben Sheets thing was a great find. I got to start there because that was unbelievable. Sheets is 4-1. He's pitched brilliantly, really, and every time out, even the game he lost. Tim Hudson has been a little bit more erratic. In fact, this week in his last start in Philadelphia, he frittered away a 6-1 lead, which is very, very unusual for Tim Hudson. He hit a 2-run double during the game, maybe running to second base, knocked him out. I don't know what it was. But he gave up a 5-run inning to the Phillies that allowed them to tie the game before the Braves went on to win. But Tim Hudson is not 100% reliable as the ace of the staff. I think by the end of the season, you might see Ben Sheets as the ace of the staff. We'll see what happens.
Wow. And that would be quite interesting, to be honest with you. I mean, is there any worries about Sheets' durability? I mean, let's be perfectly honest. The guy hasn't been able to pitch healthy in 6 years?
Well, not 6. Well, really the last 2 years, up until re-signing with the Braves. But on the other hand, that's a heck of a long time he had a rest too. So I mean, 2 years of rest. I mean, some pitchers complain about not having enough time between starts, even with 4 or 5 days. And Ben Sheets has had 2 years. I think he'll be fine.
Well, okay, so because to me it seems a little funny. I mean, we're talking about a guy who really had rotator cuff injuries, and this isn't exactly Tommy John. Where pitchers have had a long string of success of coming back from it. Rotator cuff injuries. There's not a lot. There's a very small sample size when it comes to coming back and being able to come back and pitch healthy. I think we're seeing it this year in Jake Peavy and in Chicago, and that's nice. But again, I mean, there's always going to be that durability issue, and especially he hasn't pitched in a long time, so you always have to think about the rust factor.
Yeah, it's a good point. But if you look at the Braves and look where they are, look at their system, look who's on the DL, look who's in the minor leagues. The Braves probably have more starting pitching depth, I would dare to say, than any team in the major leagues. Tommy Hansen's on the DL. Brandon Beachy had Tommy John surgery, so he's out. He's not going to come back this year. Tommy Hansen will. Jair Jurgens, who should have probably started the 2011 All-Star game, he was the best pitcher in the National League the first half of last year. He's still in AAA. He's rehabbing. Julio Teheran was 15-3 in AAA last year, still pitching at Gwinnett, still a great prospect. Randall Delgado is down at Gwinnett, great prospect. I mean, the Braves, they're going to have a lot of starting pitching going down that stretch.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you use the term deep in the Atlanta Braves pitching staff. A lot of people, and including myself, really kind of looked at the Washington Nationals as a team. Especially when they brought in Gio Gonzalez from the A's. They brought in Edwin Jackson, and some of the pieces that they had returning. It really kind of showed the overall strength of their depth in their rotation, and especially in that bullpen as well too. Now that we're now that we're kind of getting to the stretch run, I mean, and things have kind of played out over the half of the season. Are you still in that? Are you still more inclined to take Atlanta over Washington at this point?
Yes, very much so. For lots of reasons, not just pitching, but even with pitching. And the main factor is, I'll give you one word: experience. The Nationals have never been there. The only guy who's been there is Davey Johnson. I mean, the manager. I mean, the rest of the team hasn't been there. It's a really big thing. The Braves are there almost every year. They're in pennant contention or divisional title contention, let's say. The Nationals haven't been there. And if you take Steven Strasburg out of the equation, which they say they will, although Strasburg denies it himself, that's going to make a major difference.
You are in and around this team quite a bit, I take. You know Freddie Gonzalez, you know Frank Wren, the general manager. Do they still talk about last season?
No,
okay.
They will if it happens again, and if they start another losing streak. Yeah, they'll start talking about it. They'll start thinking about it. I think these guys are past it. They've got some new pieces. Okay. They've got Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson from the Cubs.
Yep.
They've got some other guys who weren't there last year, and that makes a difference too.
And the reason why I ask is because, when a team, generally speaking, when a team goes through what the Braves did last season, it has some lingering effects, especially this late in the season when you start getting to that point again. And I was curious about it because I really wanted to know about this mentality about, whether or not they still think about it or whether or not they're using that as motivation to not let this happen again.
I think the only thing they're thinking about is Chipper Jones. One of the things, I interviewed Chip Carey on my show last night, Braves Banter, and Chip said, I can't believe that Chipper Jones only has 23 games left to play in Atlanta in his career. That's all. That's the number of home games the Braves have left in the schedule, 23.
Oh, is there any? Just out of curiosity, is there going to be any? Swan song celebration? For Braves fans to down the stretch as the season comes to a close.
Probably not, because the way it's looking, the last 3 games of the year, the Braves are in Pittsburgh, and those two teams very likely could be playing off for the wild card spot. So if it isn't decided yet, or even if it is decided yet, the Braves' last home game, which would be the Atlanta fans' last chance to honor Chipper Jones, would be before the race is decided. That's very likely to happen.
Well, okay, so let's shift gears a little bit, Dan, and let's talk about this this 2-team race at the top of the National League East. The Washington Nationals, getting very close to the 160 inning limit. For Steven Strasburg, and I got to be perfectly honest with you. I understand the need to protect your long-term investment. I get that, but then again, the Nationals are in a position where they haven't been since '81 when they were when they were the Montreal Expos. This is a territory that they're unfamiliar with, as you alluded to just a couple seconds ago. And what type of impact is this going to have on this race once he gets shut down at 160 innings? Are the Braves looking at this? Are they foaming at the mouth, just thinking, okay, well, we're only 4.5 games back, and they're about to lose their best pitcher?
Well, they're not exactly foaming at the mouth. The Braves aren't. Also, the Braves have done very well as a team against Steven Strasburg. If you look at the record, that's one team that's really given him trouble. I don't know why, but they have. So I don't know what's going to be. As I said, experience is a very big factor, and that's going to matter a lot. And I just hope that history isn't repeating itself, because the weather forecast for New York for today and for tomorrow, the Braves could again have consecutive rainouts, just as they did last year with Hurricane Irene, also in the month of August. It's unbelievable that history is repeating itself.
Well, I look at this race, and Strasburg coming out of that rotation, it's going to be a big blow to the Nationals. But I honestly think that the way this race is shaping up, the Braves are hot on their heels. I think the Braves can catch them whether Strasburg's in that rotation or not. Am I wrong about that?
Well, if they keep playing teams like the Astros, the Nationals can't lose. The Nationals, the Astros just gave it away on a silver platter. That one game, that very first game in the series, I think it was, they made 4 errors. They were only charged with 3, but they made 4 errors in the 11th inning. Give me a break. The 3-2 they lost. Stuff like that. And if the Astros had just played better defensively and didn't play like a little league team, they would have split that series. They would have won 2 of the 4 games.
Hey, Steve, I'm not the only one that's going to diss the Astros on this show.
Nah, that's true. But you can't spell disaster without Astro.
Yeah, and Harrell pitched last night. He pitched very well. In his last start before this, he beat the Braves 3-2. So this guy's a pretty good young pitcher. The Astros do have some good young players. However, most of them are AAA players, and they don't belong in the major leagues.
How do you see this shaking out, Dan? Washington does have a lead, but it's not insurmountable. And you know what? From everything that I read from the people that I talked to, they're expecting the Braves to pretty much make a run, catch them, and not only that, but seal this thing up. And it's because of the experience that you keep alluding to. How do you see this playing out over the last month and a half?
Well, for one thing, the Braves have to be able to beat the Nationals. They have quite a few games remaining with them. I'm looking at the schedule right now. It looks like there's 6 games remaining between the Braves and the Nationals. So the Braves have to win 4 of them, 5 of them. We'll see how it goes. So it's a matter of the Braves really can't get help from anybody else. They've got to do it on their own. They've got to win their games. They've got to win their series. And hope that the Nationals come down to earth a little bit. With Strasburg out, if they do take him out after 160 innings, that'll make a difference. But we'll see. And Gio Gonzalez, yes, that was a big find for Washington. And he's a good hitter, too, by the way. He hit a home run in his last game.
Speaking of this division, you watch this division, very closely. Has this division played out so far in the way you expected it this year?
I didn't think Philadelphia was going to fall flat on its face. I mean, that's unbelievable. They got old in a hurry. I mean, everybody was saying going into the season, Philadelphia's going to win. They've got a veteran team. They've got that great pitching staff. But you know what? Roy Oswalt was never re-signed. Cliff Lee got hurt. He couldn't win a game for half the season. Roy Halladay got hurt, and he really wasn't pitching like Roy Halladay. You take those things into consideration. Plus, they didn't have Howard and Utley for half the year. And so they showed their age in a hurry. And then once they fell so far behind, they decided to get younger and to get some money off the payroll. I think they're going to make a very big splash in the free agent market this winter because they've got a lot of money to play with now. So if that happens, the Phillies will be right back there next year probably. As far as the Mets go, they're a pretty weak ball club. I mean, they have pretty good pitching, but beyond that, they don't have a lot after David Wright and perhaps Ike Davis, who had a bad first half. He's just starting to come around. But the Mets outfield in particular is pretty shaky. And Ruben Tejada's having a great year, but, it doesn't have the power that Jose Reyes does. So the Mets, I didn't think the Mets were going to do much. The Marlins are an interesting team. When they signed Reyes and Heath Bell and Mark Burley, I thought the Marlins were the best team in the National East. I thought they were going to win this year. They obviously didn't. They fell on their face early. Stanton got hurt, which didn't help things. And, Heath Bell was terrible. I mean, probably the worst closer in the major leagues for half the year. So then the Marlins just pulled the plug. And I think they, very suddenly made their decision to sell the team again. They've done this before. They did it after 1997 when they won the World Series. They did it after 2003 when they won the World Series. So the Marlins have a history. But you would think that with a new ballpark and, they were trying to do so much in that area, and they thought they'd get so much money with the new ballpark and all the free agent signings, and they just pulled the plug. So who knows? It's different than anybody thought.
I wonder about that new ballpark as well too, because there's always an adjustment period when teams go from old to new. And I knew that playing in Pro Player Stadium down there in Miami, it really was tailor made for right-handed hitters. Short porch out there in left field, and then you go into the new ballpark, and it's very that outfield is very expansive. And when I watched the Marlins, it really looked like for the first 2 months it was an adjustment period for them, just trying to feeling out what you can and can't do in that park.
I guess that's true, but you have to say the same thing for the visiting teams too. Plus, the fans were very enthusiastic, thinking, "Oh, this is the year the Marlins are going to win again." Well, maybe not.
Well, Dan, I do want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, before we let you go, you are taking the Braves, am I right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
By how much? How much are they going to win this division by?
Oh, let's say 4 games.
All right. Well, I'm holding you to that. We're going to get you. We're going to get you back on as we get closer to the playoffs, and hopefully your prediction comes true.
All right. Thanks very much. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. That was Dan Schlossberg, Braves banner. Gotta love it.
Yep.
That's an enthusiastic Braves fan right there.
Absolutely. Yes, especially he's talking about an 8-game swing in the standings. I mean, I think the Braves are going to pass them too, but I don't know if I'm going to go that far.
I will say this, though. The Washington Nationals, I know that I'm making a mountain of a. I could be making a mountain out of a mole right here with Steven Strasburg. I understand the depth. I get it. I understand the bullpen. They have a fantastic bullpen, by the way. I get that.
Yeah.
And that's going to play a huge factor in this thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that the loss of Strasburg is going to be so impactful that this team is going to wilt, because I still think it's a playoff team, whether it's the division title or whether it's a wild card team. Because again, right now they're sitting with the best record in the National League. Am I wrong?
Best record in baseball right now.
Yeah, best record in baseball. Thank you. And so the interesting thing about this, though, this isn't just about chasing a division title. If you're sitting there with the best record in baseball and probably one of the better pitching staffs in the major leagues, it's not an issue of division or wild card. It's an issue about thinking a little bit ahead and making and kind of forecasting exactly what your playoffs are going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Yankees are doing it. The Yankees are doing it. I'm sure the Rangers are probably doing it.
They're doing it. Absolutely.
And I think that I think the Strasburg effect is going to be a big one.
It's going to be a huge effect. Huge effect. And I get it. Okay, you don't want to blow out his arm. I understand that. But if he's feeling strong, if he's feeling good, is it really at risk of blowing out his arm? I mean, honestly, to me, this is we're going to cut you off at 160 regardless. Say, okay, how you feeling? Anything at all?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. You see what happened to Chris Sale in Chicago. He's got dead arm. All right. So that's the things that you kind of prevent against, and that's that's why they have the inning deadline. But here's the thing. If you stretch him out, if you instead of letting him throw 7, you throw 5 1/3. Instead of going on once every 5 days, you go once every 6 days. You skip a start here and there, especially right around the All-Star break. You conserve some energy for the back end of the season. And you know what? And especially, and here's the point. Especially if you skip a start every once in a while, you don't bring in that dead arm effect. You kind of take injury. You try to minimize injury as much as you possibly can. That's not only looking out for your season, but it's also looking out for your future as well, because you're not necessarily throwing them every 5 days. You're not throwing them into the fire like Chicago did with Sale.
Well, and I think too. I mean, you're talking about Strasburg, who's been a starter his whole career. I think there's a little bit of a difference there because of stretching them out like that. I get your point. I get your point, and that's valid. But maybe because I'm down here in Texas and I've got Nolan Ryan going on a jihad against inning limits and pitch limits. Okay, did you really go there? You went jihad? I did.
Okay. I'm just giving you a hard time, Bo.
I know that, but it's basically what he's done. He's just gone on the offensive against pitch counts and against innings limits. What he's done is from the bottom of the Rangers minor league system all the way through, he's making the pitchers stronger. He's increasing their workload as they're younger, making their arms stronger. That's the way that he was brought into the league, and that's the way that, frankly, a lot of teams are starting to try and get to. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm still not quite sure why they've got him on such a limit. I don't get it. They probably know something I don't, which is fine. Okay? But like you said, you stretch it out because you're talking about taking – you're the best team in baseball. You're 3 games better than the best American League team. You're 4.5 games up in your division. You're on your way to the playoffs. Maybe sit him down. I got no problem sitting him down for a start or two. But completely shutting him down, to me, it's like saying, okay, we kind of want to win the World Series, but we care about next year more. Mm-hmm. That's like me.
Turning to the phone lines, if you want to go ahead and give us a call, the number is 714-202-9918. We're taking calls for the last 20 minutes. You want to go ahead and give us a call, National League East talk, go ahead. Don't necessarily have to keep it confined to the National League East because we're about to switch gears back to the American League West. Some people have just asked us, why don't we just rename the show Inside the American League West, which is a good point, considering that's what we talk about 50% of the time. You can also reach us on Twitter, @InsiderSteve, @Let'sTalkRangers. And if you want to know where Bo's allegiance is, just look at his Twitter handle. let's talk Rangers. But we're not going to do that. We're going to talk A's. Because, again, they had a huge series against the Angels this week. Big 3-game series. I know a lot of Rangers fans were really watching that series. All eyes were on that series, and you know what? I got to be honest with you. If you needed any more convincing from the Oakland A's standpoint, you just had to look at that three-game series against the Angels. It was a statement win, statement series for the Oakland A's. Because you know what? A lot of people thought this team was cute. A lot of people thought this team was, the first half wonders, but really the lack of talent was going to really kind of catch up with them. The fact that they really don't have a lot of power in that lineup to really kind of hang with the big boys in the American League. They're winning in spite of that. Their pitching has been great. Probably some of the best pitching, that we've seen in the American League this year. They're very consistent. Their bullpen is lights out. And you know what? They're manufacturing right now in this series. They opened up losing to Jared Weaver, which was pretty much a foregone conclusion because Weaver probably is your American League Cy Young Award winner this year. You know how I feel about that, and I'm all on Felix Hernandez's coattails on that one. I think he's actually, that's probably my homerism coming out, and nothing more. But the A's dropped the first game in that series. They come back and they score 19 runs in the next 2 games, and then they end up taking 2 out of 3.
Yeah, they took 2 out of 3, and like I said earlier, we both said it was a statement series by the A's. I mean, if you think about it, the Angels and the A's are in a dogfight right now for a wild card spot. The emergence of the Tigers and the White Sox, okay, maybe the Orioles in the East, they're starting to come on strong. Makes it less likely that they can both make the playoffs. So yeah, that was head to head against your prime competition for a playoff spot. The A's passed the test with flying colors, and the A's have things that the Angels don't. Yeah, the Angels have a better offense, but the A's have enough offense, and they have enough offense because their pitching is that much better. It's the best pitching in the American League on that team, maybe even in baseball. The best starting rotation. You got the deep bullpen. It's a team that can short game. Like we always talk, you want to have a bullpen that allows you to short game to 5 or 6 innings. They've got that. They've got that, and they've got just enough offense with the Cespedes in the middle of that order. They have just enough offense. And I think probably one of the most underrated moves of so far was bringing in Brandon Inge.
Yeah,
Look at when the A's started their when they got. That's when the A's really started to play good baseball. Was back when they got Inge. That's when they started to turn things around. They started scoring more runs. Their pitching has been phenomenal, and it showed me exactly what I thought the difference of the two teams were. The Angels' bullpen did them in again. The bullpen cost them 2 games in Texas. It cost them 2 games in Oakland. That's a problem, and that's the biggest problem. And the Angels haven't used any chances they had whatsoever to fix that bullpen. They got a Fieri in the beginning of the season. That was a good move. Can you imagine the team if they hadn't made that move? Imagine this bullpen without that guy.
Yeah. Well, this is the funniest thing about this team. Here's the funniest thing about this team. You look at it on paper, it boggles my mind. You talk about the Cespedes, but I mean, this is their outfield. Coco Crisp in center, and Josh Reddick, the scrap heap fielder that the Red Sox threw in that Andrew Bailey deal, is their starting right fielder, and happens to lead that team in most power categories.
Right.
Their third baseman is Brandon Inge. Again, scrap heap pickup from the Detroit Tigers. There's enough value left in them that Billy Beane picked them up. Eric Sogard at shortstop, Jamal Weeks at second base. You got a combination of Carter and Moss at first base, Johnny Gomes, Seth Smith. The list goes on and on and on and on. You look at this team and it boggles your mind. This really is the fictitious Cleveland Indians.
It is, but it's nothing else, Steve. It's Moneyball 2.0.
I don't know about that.
It's Moneyball 2.0. He found the right role players for the team. Okay.
But the entire team is role players, though. The entire team is role players. from outside the organization, though. When we talk about Moneyball, and again, we had this conversation on Monday, Bo. About Moneyball version 2.0. Well, listen, Moneyball is always about player development. It's about drafting, in a certain way with a mathematical equation, to give the A's that advantage. Well, everybody plays that game now in Major League Baseball. There's nothing to hide as far as that, that equation, for scouting. So, I mean, really, right. Moneyball, that's what it is. It's about player development. And don't get me wrong, of course, when it comes to free agency, when it comes to finding, plugging gaps, of course, the equation still works. But the biggest issue, with Moneyball is it's a heavy emphasis on player development. When you look at this Major League roster, more than I want to say 3/4 of this roster came from outside the A's organization.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's why I call it Moneyball 2.0. This is Moneyball at the Major League level. This is doing the same stuff, but instead of doing it with prospects you're looking to draft and develop, you're doing it with the pieces that make it good this year. That's what they did. They went out. They didn't make any of the sexy signings, any of the sexy things. The A's never will. They don't have the payroll. But they got the right guys for that team, guys that fit what they're trying to do, guys that complement each other in that lineup. That's what they did. And the A's, we've always said if they could just get a little offense to go with that pitching. They've had good pitching for the past decade. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a team that once had, Dan Heron on the team. They had Trevor Cahill, who for the A's, very good. Very, very good. They've had the pitching, and they keep trading away, but they bring up even better pitchers every time they do, it seems like. They've always had the pitching. Now they've got just enough offense. Because we've got that kind of pitching. You don't have to have a Rangers offense, a Yankees offense. You don't have to have that when you've got fantastic pitching. Mm-hmm. You just need an offense that's going to get you 4 or 5 runs a game. That's about it.
Well, and that's what and if that's going to win Billy Beane, Executive of the Year, it's because he recognized his strengths, and he knew that he wasn't going to be able to miss. He wasn't going to be able to miss a beat when trading guys like Gio Gonzalez and Trevor Cahill and Andrew Bailey, probably 3 guys that most teams would never trade in that type of situation.
Certainly not.
But I'll tell you what, him and Beane and his staff was able to uncover some gems. I mean, really, who thought Josh Reddick was going to have an impact at the beginning of the season?
I didn't think he had this big of an impact, but I thought he'd help. Because I've always been a Reddick fan. I like Josh Reddick. I like that swing. I like that swing a lot, and he's got a lot of power in that swing. He's just going to grow, too. He's going to be even better. He's still developing.
Yep. Well, I thought the biggest, for me, the biggest impact of this series was in that third game when when the A's got to Zach Greinke. We touched a little bit about this at the top of the program, and again, that was a game that the Angels, it was a must-win. Division opponent, and a loss would slip you a little bit further back in the standings. This was supposed to be a 2-team race between the Angels and the Rangers. Yeah. And there's pressure. There's pressure now. More pressure so on the Angels than there is with the A's. Let's be perfectly honest. The A's, there is no expectation. As a matter of fact, most people thought the A's were going to finish in last. And here they are sitting 2.5 games above the Angels right now. The pressure is squarely on Anaheim. And I got to be perfectly honest. These type of series are really kind of give you an idea exactly where this team has this team has as far as heart, as far as mentality. Because again, you've seen the Rangers in that type of situation where they'd struggle, but against teams that they knew that they needed to beat, they beat them. They know how to show up to play.
Yeah.
Championship teams know how to show up despite the fact that they're struggling. There's a medium pace to it. Even when they're struggling, they're not bad enough where they still can't pull out a win. They can't pull out a series. The Angels didn't do that.
No, they did not.
The A's came into the series, but with nothing to lose, and they beat them 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and a series that Jared Weaver and Zach Greinke both start. That's why they got Greinke, to win that series, to win that. that series. That's the kind of series. That's why they got Jack Greinke down the stretch, because that's what they got to do. They can't lose a series to the A's. They can't. They honestly, you're sitting 7 games behind the Rangers. You're, I think, a game and a half behind the A's, something like that. Game and a half, 2.5, somewhere around there, behind the A's. And it's getting to be the middle part of August.
Yeah.
Okay, middle part of August. It's time to play baseball. I mean, it's time to play baseball. And the Angels have been a very streaky team. They started off terrible, then they couldn't lose in June and July, and now they're back in August and they're back to playing the way they have been, the way they started the season. Because for them to win, their starting pitching has to be there, their offense has to be there, and their bullpen has to be there. That's the same for every team in baseball, and that bullpen has only been there for one stretch. And you guessed it. It was that June and July stretch. That was the only time their bullpen's been there for them. And you could see how good they could be when that bullpen's pitching well. But that bullpen's not pitching well, right? I don't think there's a team in baseball that needed a day off yesterday more than the Anaheim Angels. I don't.
And now the Angels then now go into a 3-game series versus the Mariners. And again, it's the same situation. The Mariners come in, coming off 3-game sweep in Baltimore. That's understandable. A Mariners team that really kind of has struggled this season to really kind of, find their identity. At times they have played very well, and at times they've played really like their record. But again, they come in with no pressure. They played the Angels quite well this season. Outside of I believe of a 3-game sweep up in Seattle. I beg your pardon. A 2 out of 3 up in Seattle. For the most part, the Mariners have played the Angels very well, especially down in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And the Angels are on that brink. They're 7 games now out of first place behind the Rangers. If they lose 2 out of 3 to Seattle and find themselves 8, 9 games out of first place, it's over. It's over for them.
I agree.
You can't. It's very hard to make up a 9-game ground to catch.
It's incredibly hard, And the one thing I look at this race, I think the A's are the better team. Honestly, they can't match the Angels on offense, but they've got them in starting pitching, they've got them in bullpen. And if you're going to better, series, you're going to be better. That's it.
Well, and let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that again. Here's what I mean. For the division, at least, it's over for the Angels. They're not going to be able to catch the Rangers, and probably they're not going to be able to catch they may catch the A's for second place, but the division, it's over if they lose 2 out of 3 to Seattle. The wild card, on the other hand, is a completely different story. But again, you still have to deal with the Orioles. You're going to have to deal with the A's again. The Tigers are still in that race. So really, even the Red Sox are. Even the Red Sox could be still in that race as well too. So I mean, for the Angels, they have a tough task ahead of them. And I'll tell you what, right now, this is the worst time to be playing inconsistent baseball right now. Absolutely the worst.
Right. Well, and you mentioned earlier how championship teams play. Well, this is the time where championship teams step up and play baseball, and you start to see that around the league. The Braves are coming on. Okay? The Braves are coming on. The A's are coming on. The Rangers are coming on. They're hitting again, and that's why they're winning again. Okay? The Tigers, the White Sox, they're coming on. Okay? The Orioles are coming on, and they're coming on at the right time. And this is what a championship team does. You survive the summer, you get into the last 6 weeks of the season, and you make your push. Okay? Right now, if you look at the teams that were expected to be in the playoffs, all of them, except for the Angels, are making that push. And the Phillies are. But I mean,
exactly.
That's what they're not playing their best baseball when they have to.
Play like Notre Dame. Play like a champion today. Sorry. That was right on the tip of my tongue. I was waiting through your entire last sentence there to really kind of put a cap on that sentence right there. But I'll tell you what, I wanted to hit this right before we go off the air, and it's really something that I've been really wanting to talk about. It involves your Texas Rangers. It really does.
All right. Okay.
What the heck is wrong with you, Darvish? Literally, his last 5 starts, he's given up 26 earned runs. 26 earned runs while giving up 21 walks. 21 walks.
Before I get into this, I do have to let everyone know that I've enjoyed crow for breakfast for the past 3 weeks over a certain pitcher named Scott Feldman. Without Scott Feldman, the A's might be right there with the Rangers, and he's turned it around and been their best pitcher. Now, as far as you go, no one really knows what's wrong with you, Darvish. All right? The problem is his breaking stuff is fine. He's still got that outstanding plethora of off-speed pitches, and they're all down. He's controlling them well, but his fastball has gone MIA for the past 5 starts. Just his fastball command has gone. No one knows why. No one knows. He's up way with his fastballs, and the adjustment. We talked about this earlier this season, Steve, about how the second half of the season teams are going to adjust. Well, that's been their adjustment. They're making him throw strikes, and he's not throwing strikes. He's walking a lot. He's giving a little more hits lately than he was, but it still comes down to his fastball command. His off-speed stuff is so lethal, so dramatic, that when he's spotting that fastball, he's virtually unhittable. But he has not been spotting that fastball. And what's most concerning for me, and in fact, it was concerning enough for the Rangers to have a sit-down conversation with you, Darvish, his presence on the mound has changed dramatically. Early in the season, he took the ball, said, "This is my pitch. Let's see if you can hit it." Past couple of starts, and it's incredibly. You don't even have to watch him every day to notice this. He's been timid. He's been a little on edge. He hasn't been that comfortable on the mound, Yu Darvish, that we need. Even in the games where he was losing earlier this year, he still had that presence on the mound. He doesn't have it anymore. And that's sparked a sit-down conversation with Ron Washington earlier this week, and Wash came out of that saying, "The kid's head's on straight. I'm looking for something special out of him down the stretch."
Very quickly, we are 3 minutes away from the end of the program. We are going to go into overtime. You can definitely check that out on iTunes. Type in MLB Inside the Numbers. You'll see it pop up. You can go ahead and click on the link. Fast forward to the end of the program and catch the overtime, or you can do it right here on Blog Talk Radio and just hit play. But here's the thing, though, Bo. And I knew this was going to happen. This happens all the time with rookie pitchers. Their first go-round in the major leagues, they have phenomenal success. The reason? Because of the unfamiliarity, that hitters have upon them. So usually they're able to coast through the first half, much like last year with Michael Pineda, All-Star. This year, Yu Darvish, All-Star. Okay, that was probably a foregone conclusion with a guy of that many talent. But here's what happens the second go round through the league. Players know him. They're familiar. They're familiar with what he's going to do, and people understand that Yu Darvish, in order for him to work ahead in counts, he's got to have that fastball command. And I'll tell you what, batters are not afraid to wait on that pitch, because you know what, right now he's not. He doesn't have command of that fastball. So instead of working count strike one, it's usually ball one, and then Yu Darvish goes to his assortment of pitches. And you know what? They're going to wait on his off speed stuff, and they end up wrecking him. Absolutely, and it's because of the book that they have on him now. People know how to adjust to Yu Darvish. Here's the thing that Yu Darvish needs to understand: that number one, it's nice that you have 8 different pitches that you can throw for strikes. That's nice. It's a nice thing, but unfortunately, really, you need to simplify it. If you know that you can throw if you can throw a sink, a fastball, a changeup, or a curveball for a strike, pick 3 and just work with that. Simplify it. Put yourself in a better position to succeed and adjust to what what offenses have done with you. I mean, I understand that you're a phenom and you can do all these crazy things, but here's the thing: you're not winning ball games right now.
Right.
And so your job is to adjust. And right now he's not being able to do that. And I'm telling you what, right now the Rangers had if I'm Ron Washington, I'm concerned. You gave this dude $100 million to pitch, and right now he's struggling.
Well, that's not what the Rangers are concerned about. It's not about how much they pay. They invested in him long term, and they knew that this first season wasn't going to be his best. I think we all knew that. Okay. Did I expect him to just completely crater like he has the past 5 starts? No, I didn't see that coming. Okay, but he has. And you're right. He needs to simplify things. And I've seen him start. He hasn't thrown that really slow curveball as much. So you can see maybe he's trying to simplify things. He's trying to concentrate on his fastball. What the Rangers are concerned about, and rightfully so, is October. That's their concern. They need this guy to dominate Yu Darvish that they saw in April and May. If they want to go back to the World Series, they've got to have that, and that's their concern. That's what their concern. And Mike Maddox, one of, if not the best pitching coaches in baseball. I promise you, he's working with him. He's working with a guy. They're going to get this thing out. It may be a mechanical issue because all of his fastballs, like I said earlier, up and away. All of his fastballs, up and away. Okay? That's a release point. That's a mechanical issue. They've got to fix that. Okay? They get that fixed. He gets his fastball commit, but it's a little bit, a lot like in a way. I know we're comparing a pitcher to a hitter here, but it's a little bit like Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton, when he went through a 6-7 week stretch, he did it because he would swing at every single pitch, and pitchers do that. So they didn't throw a fastball. They didn't throw a fastball. The exact same thing with Yu Darvish. Hitters are sitting on his off-speed stuff because they know he can't spot his fastball right now, and until he starts spotting that fastball, that's exactly what hitters are going to do.
Well, it's interesting because again, the Rangers are in a very peculiar situation because number one, yes, they're leading the division, but then again, the A's are right on nipping at their heels. They're gonna need everybody to play like an all-star, pretty much like the all-stars that they are.
Yeah.
And you brought up Mike Maddox. And I was going to ask you that question again because, right now he's probably the most important person on that coaching staff right now.
Absolutely, 100%, yes. Yes, he is. Because the hitters know how to hit, and the fielders know how to field. The pitchers need Mike Maddox right now because it's not just Yu Darvish. It's Collins. Derek Collins had a rough patch of starts. Matt Harrison the past couple of games hasn't been as sharp as you want to see Matt Harrison be. So they've got some issues in that rotation right now that frankly can be fixed. These guys have done it before. You've seen Derek Holland at his best. You saw it in Game 4 of the World Series. You've seen him at his best. You've seen Matt Harrison at his best. He was an all-star this year. Okay, it's not like they suddenly forgot how to pitch. They just got to make some adjustments. They've got to fix things mechanically. Derek Holland, for example, is missing. He's nibbling, kind of like C.J. Wilson used to do. He's nibbling around the plate. He's just missing on his inside corner pitches, and that's caused him to come over in the middle of the plate, and he's getting shelled. It's little things. It's little things like that, and that's where Mike Maddox comes in. That's why he's so important to this coaching staff. That's why they were sweating bullets when he was interviewing with the Cubs in the offseason because they didn't want to lose him for this reason right here. He gets the pitchers back on track. I think we've got some. I think we've got some good series this weekend, Steve. I really do. I'm obviously I'll be watching the Rangers and Tigers, which I think is a good AL matchup, so to speak. But we've got some other doozies. We've got a couple in the National League. We've got, for example, let's see what we got. Got Atlanta and the Mets.
Yep.
Okay. Washington and Arizona. Arizona's coming on strong. Your Mariners against the Angels. And I'm really interested to see what happens after that day off, how they come out of that day off. One series I'm watching in particular, I think it's a fantastic matchup, Steve. A's and the White Sox. Wild card battle. Playoff positioning possibly between teams. Detroit trying to get back into the mix of things in terms of seeding in the American League. The Yankees and Blue Jays. That's interesting. So we fantastic series here this weekend.
Well, I will say this, and for those that tune in, our faithful three that that tune in weekly, understand that my heart and soul pretty much lives and dies with the Seattle Mariners. I was born and raised up here in the 206, it's a struggle. It really is, Bo. I mean, we haven't been to the postseason since 2001. You really haven't had a decent winning season since 2003. And in this season, especially as we go through August, there's the doldrums of a rebuilding season. The Mariners won 7 out of 9 on their last homestand against Kansas City and Toronto. Go on the road, and now they've lost 5 out of 6 against Baltimore and New York. What I really like to see is some consistency for the rest of the season. Maybe take a series or two from Texas, take a series or two from the Angels. Play that spoiler. it's one thing when your team is, lives and dies by the young guys, and that's nice and all. But at the same time, eventually, the light has to go on. It has to start clicking a little bit. We haven't seen that this year. I'd like to see the Mariners turn around and try to make something of the rest of their season. Now, I'd like to see them push the 500 button, but I don't necessarily think that's realistic. But what I really like is, play your best baseball against the teams that are in this race. Play the spoiler. Get some good mojo going for next season. That's what I'd like to see. Not just for the rest of the month of August, but also September. Against Triple, when rosters expand and you're going to face a lot of AAA guys, take advantage of the situation.
Well, you're getting the Angels 3 times, you're getting the A's twice, and you're getting the Rangers twice. So the Mariners are going to factor in this AL West race, which I think that we've all taken notice of what they've done. Since Ichiro Suzuki has been traded, they've actually started playing a much better baseball. And I, for one, I'm not really high on playing the Mariners right now. As a Rangers fan, I'm not. I mean, the Mariners, especially the past couple of series, seem to have really played the Rangers well. They played the Angels well, like you mentioned, in Anaheim. So if there's a team in this division that probably going to make this big impact, it's Seattle. Because, the A's, Rangers, and Angels are probably going to beat up on each other down the stretch.
Yeah.
In fact, I say that. I don't think the Rangers play the A's or the Angels until like the last week and a half of the season. So the Mariners are going to have a huge play in this division. If the Rangers have a good August and a good September, and the Mariners also have a good August and good September, then you're going to see a division gap widen, and the A's and the Angels will be in that dogfight, and the Mariners are going to be that huge monkey wrench that every team in contention hates to face.
And the Mariners, are playing 500 ball since the All-Star break. But here's the most important thing: they have nothing to gain, and they have nothing to lose.
Correct.
They're that team that should be playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because you know what, they can salvage the rest of this season, and it comes with consistency. But if one thing that they've seen throughout the course of this season is what it takes to play consistently, and that's what I'm looking for. For and more, I don't necessarily even care if they lose, but play consistent.
Yeah.
If you're going to lose, I don't want to see one game where you come out and you destroy the Angels 8-1, but then you come back and lose 9-2. I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
consistently. If you're going to lose, lose right. Lose right.
Yeah, I got you. I understand, and that's frankly, that's what you're dealing with at this stage of the Mariners rebuild. There are a bunch of kids trying to figure out how to win at the major league level, and that's the last thing you get, figuring out how to win. The last piece.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Mariners are going to have to do. That's what they can focus on down the stretch. Focus on, you know what, let's wreck some teams. Let's just go in and wreck teams. And they're in position to do that. They're playing a lot of AL West games down the stretch. They're going to factor in this division, and that, you know what, if I'm the Angels and I'm the A's, and I'm sitting here looking at this division lead, and I'm looking at how the Mariners have played against us, I'm a little concerned. Yeah. If the Rangers didn't have the lead they have, I would be concerned as a Rangers fan just because of the way the Mariners play they play very well within the division. Let's say right now, they play well within the American League West. They have all year. It's outside the West where they've had their issues.
Well, Bo, that's going to do it for us today. It's always a pleasure to have you on the air. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel. I do want to thank DJ Carrasco for stopping by. Fantastic guy. Look forward to having him back on the program again. I also want to thank Dan Schlossberg from Braves Banner stopping by, talking a little bit about those Braves. So, until next week, for Bo Reed and his gang over there at letstalkrangers.com, I am the Insider Steve, wishing you a very good afternoon. Stay cool out there, and have a good afternoon and evening, Canada.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.
gets into mid-August, as we get to the 1st of September, Bo, something's big is going to happen with those Washington Nationals. Steven Strasburg's 160-inning limit is quickly approaching, and he's going to be shut down. Their GM came out and basically said, listen, we're holding firm to that. Whether or not you feel that is a big mistake, I do. I think they handled it completely wrong. It's going to happen, and that's going to play a huge factor in this National League East race.
Well, it's going to be huge. The Braves are right there. The 4.5 games out. You take Strasburg out of that rotation. You've got no one to replace him. Really, no one can get it to that level anyway to replace him. It's going to end up being working out badly for the Nationals. They can't just sit on this 4.5 lead and say, okay, let's take our ace out because we don't want to overuse him. And you're right. They should have limited this guy's things throughout the season. You get 2 months in, you're in contention, you're one of the better teams in baseball. You know you're going to be good. Make your adjustments then. Have him skip a starter. Have him skip 3 or 4 starters. Okay? Save him for that September and October push because, you may make the playoffs. And I think they will with or without Strasburg. I think it's a playoff team. If you go in that postseason series, especially a short one without Strasburg, you burn him out. He gets, what's the point? It's going to be a first-round exit anyway.
No, I agree. And the interesting thing about this is you knew that, the Washington Nationals knew coming into the season they were going to protect him. They knew it, which is fine. It's 100% fair. You have to do what's right for your organization, and if he is your ace for the next 10 years, which by all accounts he is, then you have to do right. I get that argument. But then again, the Washington Nationals are also in the pennant chase.
Right.
Their division status is very real. And the thing about this is you had to have the foreshadow after April, after May, that you were going to be in this thing the entire season. So you know what? They should have done right. At that point, they should have brought up John Lannon from AAA. And I understand John Lannon isn't exactly a sexy name. But at least you can add him to the rotation. Now you go from a 5 to a 6. And you have the ability to skip a start here and there if you so choose. You had the ability to push that 160 inning limit into September, possibly into October. They should have done right. They should have taken out a page of what the Mariners did last year with New York Yankee All-Star last year. Why can't I? What a shame! I can't even remember. Anyway, so, Michael Pineda, thank you very much. Last year, the Mariners, granted, of course, the Mariners were in a completely different situation last year. They weren't contenders, but they also played the role of knowing that he was probably going to be a very big part of their future, and the last thing they really wanted to do was stretch him out when he has never been stretched out that far in any season of his career. They did right by him, skipped a start here and there. Kept him fresh in the second half. If they needed him in September, he was going to be available. They did right. The Washington Nationals didn't do that.
A short period with what they're going in. They could do that. Okay? But take Strasburg out of it. You're not giving yourself the best chance. You're not putting your best foot forward in a National League playoff. So let's face it, there's going to be some good teams in the National League playoff. Everyone's focused on the American League playoffs and also seeing how the teams are stacked up in the American League side. That National League side is just going to be just tough to go through. If you take Strasburg out of that, you're taking a huge piece of the rotation out of it. And what signal is this to the players? They play their hearts out just to make the playoffs. If you take our best pitcher away from us just because you put any from it, the Nationals, you know what, I get it. I get protecting your guy. I get it. I understand. But you need to adjust. They should have adjusted way back in May, knowing that they were going to be in contention, and make it to where Strasburg maybe takes some time off in the middle of the season so we can catch them for the stretch ride. That's what the Nationals make a mistake. I'm not saying that they're making a mistake by shutting him down. That's not the mistake. The mistake is not adjusting to where they had him for that stretch ride in September and for the playoffs.
Well, Bo, we had a laundry list of headlines set up, but that nice little rant diatribe about Steven Strasburg and the Washington Nationals kind of went a little bit over. No big deal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to shorten this one down a little bit. So out of the 4 headlines that we had, Which one? Which one would you like to discuss this morning?
I think we talked a little bit last week about some trades at the deadline. The one we talked about more than any other was Zach Greinke. And we said for this trade to have been a success for the Angels, for this trade to have been worth it, they had to win the World Series. They had to win the World Series. Greinke had to be phenomenal. He was fantastic in his first start as an Angel. He lost because he didn't get the run support, and then he's been spawned the past 2 starts. You couple that with a horrendous road trip for the Angels bullpen. Now you start to see why that maybe it was a little too risky, because right now the Angels are sitting 7 games behind second in the West. They're still there in the wild card. They're behind the A's, a game and a half behind the A's. If this thing doesn't turn around, this thing doesn't get fixed, and they even fail to make the playoffs, people look at that Zach Greinke trade as a huge mistake by the Angels.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting, Bo, because I was wondering how this was going to play out. And I said it right at the time of the trade. I didn't know if this was a great fit for the Angels. You brought up a very interesting point when it happened, though, and you basically said, as far as opportunity, and when you look at Greinke's talent, it probably could end up being probably the best deal made at the deadline, and I completely agreed with that. But then again, I wondered how he was going to handle the transition from Milwaukee to an LA market. Now, granted, some people have chimed in and said, Anaheim isn't Los Angeles, but then again, let's be perfectly honest. The expectations are still there. The Angels are right in the thick of a, and you know what? It's going to affect their September. And I got to be honest with you, if they make the playoffs, you know what? I'm telling you right now, that rotation is not going to be the same. And I'm going to go on record right now here, Bo, and say if the Washington Nationals do make the playoffs and Steven Strasburg is not there, it's going to be a first-round exit.
Well, I got to wonder. I really have to wonder, there's limited to 160 games, right? I wonder if they're going to shut him down for the stretch drive. Okay, they shut it down for the stretch drive, and then basically put it back on for the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you rest his arm for the last part of August, all of September, you make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, you throw him back in the playoffs. Have him in and start game one of the playoffs. Nationals all of a sudden have their rotation back. But I got to wonder what that last time off would be. I think a lot of people ask the Nationals what exactly they're going to do, what exactly their plan is, because if you're shutting down Strasburg the entire way, in other words, down the stretch, in the playoffs, you're not giving yourself the best chance you have to win the World Series. And that's what all fans want their front office to do, is give your team the best chance to win the World Series. You take Strasburg out of that equation, you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Phone lines are open, 714-202-9918. We're taking calls all show long. If you have one, go ahead and give us a call. You can also reach us out on Twitter, @InsiderSteve, @Let's Talk Rangers. Definitely love to hear from you. And we also have a comment from the chat room. This one comes from Andrea, Sox fan. I know her quite well. What about the most underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball, Jordan Zimmerman? What about Gio? What about Edwin? What about their bullpen when Clifford and Storen? No, you're right. But then again, depth isn't depth. Here's the interesting thing about this is, and I've said this all season long, the Washington Nationals probably have the deepest rotation in all of the National League, and it's true. But then again, Steven Strasburg is their best pitcher.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. They have the ability to shorten their game. But then again, if you don't have your ace, I mean, we're talking about your ace. The guy that you know for a fact you can give the ball to twice in a short game series if you have to. He is a shutdown pitcher. Felix Hernandez, Justin Verlander. Do those names ring a bell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, you gotta have one. You gotta have one. And I'm telling, as much as I like Gio, I do. I like Gio, but he's never been there before. Yeah, I understand that neither is Strasburg, but there's a big difference between Strasburg and Gio.
Big difference. Huge difference. You're talking about a huge drop off. You take Strasburg out of the equation, you drop it down to where Gio probably starts game one of the series. Zimmerman starts game two, and I agree with her that she's right. That is by far one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. I agree with that. I get it. I'm not saying the Nationals are an automatic out. I'm not. Because they could win.
Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is MLB Inside the Numbers on the Fan vs. Fan radio network. A very special shout-out to all the listeners that are tuning in this morning across this country, especially down in the Atlanta area. Go Braves. All my friends out there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that, those faithful three down there that tune in every week. Appreciate having you guys on board. And all of my friends up there in the Great White North, got to send a shout-out to Canada. Absolutely. Welcome to the program. I am the Insider Steve Silver, and joining me, as he does pretty much every week, Houston's own, Bo Reed. Good morning, Bo. What's going on, man?
I'm not in Houston.
I know. I preface that because, for those that are tuning in for first-time tune-ins, Bo is stationed in Austin, diehard Rangers fan, absolutely just despises the city of Houston and everything it stands for. Doesn't really care too much for the Astros. Doesn't really care too much for the Texans. But you know what? I give it to him every week.
Well, yeah, you do. Yeah, that's okay. I'm feeling a good show today, Steve. I think a couple people that we know and we're quite good friends with, I think it's going to owe us a steak.
Yeah. We do have a fantastic show lined up for you guys. Former New York Mets reliever DJ Carrasco joins the program, talking a little bit about what it's like to be a active Major League Baseball player. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences of pitching in the American League versus the National League. Quite interesting. Maybe kind of dispel some myths about pitchers' parks and hitters' parks. I know a lot gets made, especially when it comes to bullpen pieces, the difference of playing in both. We're also going to talk to him a little bit about, what exactly is an AL reliever. He has been classified as an American League reliever. And what's kind of interesting about this, Bo, is I actually really thought that only just was attributed to starting pitchers. But I guess not so much.
No, not so much at all. So there's going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to that one. Absolutely.
Following DJ will be Dan Schlossberg from the radio show Braves Banter. He is a credentialed media member of those Atlanta Braves, lifelong Braves fan. He's gonna jump on, talk a little bit about the National League East race. The Atlanta Braves currently sitting 4.5 games out of first place right now, lead the wild card. But as this stretch run pennant chase, expectations have been there all season long. He was brought in to be that third shutdown closer in that rotation. I beg your pardon? Yeah. Yeah. His first start against Tampa Bay. I wasn't too surprised, just considering Tampa Bay's offense has pretty much been anemic all season long. They didn't have at that point in time. They still didn't have Evan Longoria back, and so really, I wasn't too surprised that he came over and was able to do what he did in his first start. But the last two starts against Chicago, roughed up.
Yeah.
Against Oakland, who, by the way, had a fantastic statement series against the Angels, winning 2 out of 3, lit him up. Interdivision games, let's be perfectly honest, he was brought over to win those games. The A's came into that series knowing that they had to take 2 out of 3 to really kind of push that envelope and really kind of take a hold of the second place, and they did that. Greinke didn't get his job done. And again, it begs the question, where, not only just the fit question part about it, just where is his mindset equipped to handle this type of pressure situation? Because let's be perfectly honest, doing it in Milwaukee is one thing, doing it in LA is a completely different other thing.
following the A's closely for the past 2 weeks. If you ask people in Texas, you ask people in Arlington, which team they're looking at, they'll tell you both, but they're really starting to look more at the A's now. And the Angels, they went into that series, they lost the first game, win the second game, lose the third game, and they lost that third game after they had a lot of their games on that road trip where their bullpen just imploded. The Angels have got to do something about that bullpen. We've been saying that this whole season. They've got to do something about that bullpen. They haven't done it. They didn't do it at the trade deadline. They're not going to get hugely reliable on them in August off the waiver wire. So they're going to have to try and tackle and figure this out because they're in trouble. And they're not in trouble just for winning the AL West. They're in trouble for passing the A's for a wild card spot. And the way the Tigers are coming along, White Sox are right there. Earlier this year, we said, well, maybe 2 teams from the West because they were leading everybody. But now these Central teams are coming along. The East teams are coming along. They've got to pass the A's to get into the wild card spot. I think at this point, the wild card is going to come out of 2 different divisions. The West will be one of them. They've got to pass the A's, and they absolutely failed in their one attempt to do that. I mean, you're in this dogfight with the A's. You go to Oakland. You're starting great. You're expected to win 2 out of 3, and the bullpen costs you 2 of those 3 games. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for the Angels. The Angels fans are upset. They're worried. They should be. Because you sit back all of a sudden, you go from last week, for example, they're in Texas. They take the first 2 in Texas. They're up big in the 3rd game, and all of a sudden the Rangers come back. They win Game 3. They take Game 4, and the Angels go from possibly 2 games in first place in the AL West. They're now 7 back. And they're fighting the A's. They go to Oakland. They get 2 out of